Tay stood at the window of his small apartment and watched the ships fly across the sky. They were alien ships, beautiful, silver, and silent. They moved like fish through water, smooth and graceful. Human ships were not like that. Human ships were loud and rough and ugly. But human ships worked. That was the only thing that mattered. He had just returned from a mission in the outer systems. 3 months in the cold darkness of space. 3 months fixing machines that no alien could understand. 3 months watching his friends die. The aliens did not care. They never cared. Tay closed his eyes and remembered. He remembered June, who died when an alien commander refused to wait for safety checks. He remembered Myra, who died when the power failed because the aliens would not spend money on backup systems. He remembered Old Park, who died simply because he was tired and there was no one to replace him. 3 deaths. 3 human lives. And the Galactic Council said nothing. No investigation. No apology. Not even a moment of silence. Because humans were not important. Humans were just workers. Humans were the ones who fixed things. Across the city, in a tall building made of glass and steel. Hannah sat in a meeting room and tried not to scream. She was a diplomat. Her job was to represent Earth at the Galactic Council. Her job was to smile and nod and say thank you. Her job was to make humanity look good. But today, she was tired of her job. The alien delegate sitting across from her was tall and thin. With skin like blue marble and eyes like black stones. His name was too long for human tongues, so everyone called him the speaker. He was speaking now, and every word made Hannah want to break something. Humans are emotional creatures, the speaker said. This is well known. You feel too much. You react too quickly. This is why you are suited for maintenance work. You do not need to think. You only need to do. Hannah smiled. Her face hurt from smiling. We are grateful for the opportunity to serve the Galactic Accord, she said. The words tasted like poison. The speaker nodded, pleased with her answer. He did not notice the hatred in her eyes. Or perhaps he noticed and did not care. Later that night, Hannah walked through the streets of the capital. The city was full of aliens now. They came to Earth for vacations, for business, for pleasure. They ate human food and watched human entertainment and laughed at human customs. And humans served them. Always served them. Hannah stopped at a small bar and ordered a drink. The bartender was an old man with kind eyes. He poured her drink and said nothing. He understood. Everyone understood. On the other side of the world, in a building with no windows, Secretary Wu read a report that made his blood run cold. Wu was 61 years old. He had been a soldier once, back when the aliens first came to Earth. He remembered the wars. He remembered the fear. He remembered the day humanity surrendered and joined the Galactic Accord. They called it joining. It was not joining. It was surrender. For 200 years, humanity had served the Accord. They fixed the beacons, the ancient machines that connected the galaxy. They worked in the mines and the factories and the farms. They did the jobs that no alien wanted to do. And in return, humanity got peace. Humanity got technology. Humanity got to survive. But survival was not living. We knew that. He had always known that. The report in his hands was from a spy. A human spy working deep inside the alien government. The report said that several alien empires were making secret plans. They were waiting for humanity to finish repairing the critical beacons in the outer systems. And then they were going to take everything. Earth's colonies. Earth's resources. Earth's people. Wu put down the report and looked at the wall. There was a picture there. It showed Earth from space. Blue and green and white. Beautiful and small and alone. He picked up his phone and made a call. 3 days later, the leaders of Earth gathered in a secret room. President Sue sat at the head of the table. She was 58 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. She had been president for 10 years. She had spent all 10 years trying to make peace with aliens who would never see humans as equals. She was done trying. We have a choice, she said. Her voice was soft but strong. "We can continue as we are. We can keep fixing their machines and serving their needs and hoping that someday they will respect us. Or we can do something else." "What else is there?" someone asked. President Sue looked around the room. She looked at Wu, who nodded slowly. She looked at Hannah, who had been called back from the council. She looked at all the tired faces of tired people who had spent their whole lives being told they were not good enough. "We stop," she said. "We simply stop." The room was silent. "We withdraw from the Galactic Accord. We stop repairing their beacons. We stop trading with them. We stop talking to them. We go dark. We go silent. And we let them learn what life is like without us." "They will attack us," someone said. "Perhaps," President Sue replied. "But they will attack us anyway. The only question is whether we face them as servants or as free people." No one spoke for a long time. Then Wu stood up. "I have waited 40 years for someone to say those words," he said. "I am with you." One by one, the others stood. Hannah stood. Generals stood. Scientists stood. Leaders of nations and leaders of cities and leaders of small villages stood. They were all tired. They were all angry. And they were all ready. President Sue looked at them and felt something she had not felt in a long time. "Hope. Send the message," she said. "Tell the galaxy that Earth is withdrawing from the Accord. Tell them that we are no longer their workers. Tell them that we are done." She paused and looked out the window at the stars. "And tell them that if they want to know why, they should look in a mirror." The message was sent that night. It traveled across the stars at the speed of light. It reached every corner of the galaxy. It was heard by every species, every empire, every world, and the galaxy. For the first time in 10,000 years, did not know what to say. Earth had turned away, and everything was about to change. 1 week passed, then 2. Earth remained silent. The aliens sent messages. Earth did not reply. The aliens sent diplomats. Earth sent them back. The aliens sent threats. Earth said nothing. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, panic was beginning to spread. The speaker stood before the council and tried to remain calm. But his hands were shaking. His voice was weak. For the first time in his long life, he was afraid. "The humans have made a mistake," he said. "They are emotional creatures. They will calm down. They will return." But even as he spoke, he knew it was a lie. The humans were not coming back. A message arrived from Earth's orbital stations. It was simple. It was short. It was played on every screen in the council chamber. "He taught us our worth. We learned." The council members looked at each other. They did not understand. How could they understand? They had never been told they were worthless. They had never been treated like machines. They had never watched their children die and been told it did not matter. They could not understand. But they were about to learn. 3 days later, the first beacon collapsed. It was a small beacon, far out in the frontier systems. It connected 12 worlds to the rest of the galaxy. When it collapsed, those 12 worlds went dark. Travel that once took hours now took years. Communication that once took seconds now took months. 12 worlds. It's cut off from everything. And that was just the beginning. In her ship, Captain Nari received the news and felt nothing. She had been recalled to Earth 2 weeks ago. Her fleet, the last active human fleet in the galaxy, was now positioned around the home system. They were waiting, watching. Ready, Nara. I was 37 years old. She had spent half her life in space, serving the Accord. She had followed their orders. She had protected their trade routes. She had watched her people be treated like dirt no more. Her first officer, a young man named Day, approached her on the bridge. "Captain, we have contacts. Alien fleet. Coming fast." Ari looked at the screen. 40 ships. A coalition of 3 different species. They were coming to capture human engineers by force. They thought it would be easy. They were wrong. "All hands to battle stations," Nari said calmly. "Show them what primitive means." The battle was short and brutal. Human ships were not pretty. They were not elegant. They were boxes of steel and fire, built by people who expected to fight and die. They had no fancy shields, no advanced weapons. They had armor and missiles and the fury of 200 years of humiliation. The alien fleet broke in less than an hour. 20 ships destroyed. The rest fled. Nari watched them go and felt something strange. It was not joy. It was not pride. It was relief. Finally, after all these years, they were fighting back, far away, on an alien world called the Jewel of Endless Sky. A human named Yoon watched the news and wept. Yoon was 42 years old. He had been a colonist, one of thousands of humans living on alien worlds. When Earth went dark, he was stranded. The aliens around him looked at him with new eyes now. Some with fear, some with hatred, some with something else. An elder approached him one evening. The elder was old, older than anyone Yoon had ever seen. His skin was like ancient paper and his eyes were full of secrets. "You are afraid," the elder said. Double quotes, yes, Jan admitted. "Your people have done something brave. Something we never expected." "What do you mean?" The elder sat down beside him. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. "We knew," the elder said quietly. "We always knew that humans were strong. Stronger than us? Stronger than anyone. That is why we kept you small. That is why we told you that you were primitive. We were afraid of what you would become if you ever believed in yourselves." Yoon stared at him. "You lied to us." "Yes. For 200 years we lied. And now the lie is ending." The elder looked at the sky. "I do not know what will happen next, but I know one thing. The galaxy will never be the same." Back on Earth, Tae stood in his apartment and watched the news. Another beacon had collapsed. A third was failing. The galaxy was coming apart at the seams. He should have felt guilty. He had spent his whole life fixing those machines. He knew better than anyone what would happen when they failed. But he did not feel guilty. He felt free. His phone rang. It was Hannah. "They want to negotiate," she said. "The council is begging for talks." "What did the president say?" She said no. She said they had 200 years to negotiate. She said the time for talking is over. Tae nodded. "Good, Tae," Hannah said, and her voice was different now, softer, scared. "What if we are wrong? What if this destroys everything?" He thought about June. He thought about Mira. He thought about Old Park. Dying alone in the cold darkness because no one cared. "Then let it be destroyed," he said. "Let it all fall down. We will build something better." He hung up and looked out the window. The stars were bright tonight. So many stars. So many worlds. So many species who had spent centuries looking down on humanity. Let them look now. Let them see what they had created. Let them understand what it meant to push someone too far. A fourth beacon collapsed. Across the galaxy, lights were going out. Trade routes were dying. Empires were screaming into the void, and no one was answering. The stars were falling silent, and Earth, small and blue and alone, watched it all with quiet satisfaction. They had asked for nothing but respect. They had been given nothing but contempt, and now the galaxy was learning a simple truth. You do not know what you have until it is gone. The humans were gone, and everything they had held together was falling apart. In her office, President Sue looked at a map of the galaxy. Red lights showed where beacons had failed. There were so many red lights now. "How many more?" she asked. "All of them," Wu replied. "If we do nothing, they will all collapse within a year." "Good," the president said. "Let them fall. Let them all fall. And when the darkness is complete, we will decide whether to bring back the light." She turned off the map and walked to the window. "They made us carry the stars," she whispered. "Now let them learn how heavy they were." Outside, the night was beautiful and cold and full of dying lights. 1 month had passed since Earth went silent. The galaxy was dying. Worlds that once traded with 1,000 systems now stood alone. Ships that once crossed the stars in hours now drifted for years. Species that once ruled vast empires now fought over scraps of food and fuel. The beacon network was collapsing, and no one could stop it. No one, except the humans. And the humans were not answering. In a secret laboratory deep beneath the mountains of Earth, a scientist named Yoon worked through the night. She was 45 years old, with tired eyes and steady hands. She had spent her whole life studying the beacons. She knew things that no one else knew. Secrets that would change everything. President Sue came to visit her that night. The president looked older now. The weight of her decision was heavy on her shoulders. But her eyes were still strong. "You said you had something to show me," the president said. EU nodded and led her to a large screen. On the screen was an image of human DNA. Beside it was an image of something else. Something ancient. Something alien. "This is what I found," Yoon said. "I have been studying the beacons for 20 years. I always wondered why humans could repair them when no other species could. I thought it was because we were clever, because we worked hard. But that was not the reason." She pointed to the screen. "Look at this. Human DNA. And this DNA from the builders. The ancient species that created the beacon network 10,000 years ago." The president leaned closer. "They look similar. They're not just similar. They are connected. Humans share genetic markers with the builders. We are not just good at fixing beacons. We are descended from the species that created them." The room was silent. President Sue stared at the screen. Her mind was racing. "We are not primitive," Yoon continued. "We were never primitive. We are the heirs of the greatest civilization the galaxy has ever known. The aliens did not know this. Or perhaps they did know, and they were afraid." "Why would they be afraid?" Yoon smiled sadly. "Because the builders did not just create the beacons. They created the beacons and then they disappeared. No one knows why. But there are legends. Old stories that say the builders left the galaxy to their children, their true children, and that one day those children would return." President Sue understood. They thought the children were gone. They thought they were safe. And then they found us. A small, weak, emotional species on a small, blue world. A species that could touch the beacons. A species that could make them sing. They were terrified. So they did what terrified people do. They tried to keep us small. They tried to make us forget who we were. The president closed her eyes. 200 years. 200 years of being told they were nothing. 200 years of believing the lie. "Thank you," she said quietly. "This changes everything." But there was no time to celebrate. Far away in the darkness between stars, an invasion fleet was gathering. 50 species had joined together. They had put aside their old hatreds and their old wars. They had one goal now. Capture Earth. Capture the humans. Force them to repair the beacons. The fleet was massive. Thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers. More firepower than Earth had ever seen. They thought it would be easy. They thought the humans would surrender. They thought wrong. On the edge of the solar system, young Soldier Day stood at his post and watched the darkness. He was 28 years old. He had fought in the alien wars when he was just a boy. He had seen things that still haunted his dreams. But he was not afraid. Not anymore. His commander, Captain Neri, stood beside him. Her face was calm. Her eyes were cold. "How many?" Day asked. "Thousands," Nari replied. "More than we have ever faced. Can we win?" Nari smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had made peace with death. "We do not need to win," she said. "We only need to make them bleed. We only need to show them that the cost of taking Earth is higher than they can pay." Day nodded. He understood. This was not about victory. This was about sending a message. On Earth, President Sue addressed the people one final time. Every screen on the planet showed her face. Every speaker carried her voice. Billions of humans watched and listened. "My people," she said. "They are coming. The aliens who called us primitive, the aliens who used us and mocked us and threw away our lives like garbage, They are coming to take what we freely gave for 200 years. Her eyes were bright with tears she refused to shed. But we are not the same people we were. We know who we are now. We are not servants. We are not workers. We are the children of the builders. We are the keepers of the light. And we will not bow. Across the world, people stood up. In cities and villages and mountains and valleys, they stood up and listened. They think we are weak because we feel. They think we are stupid because we love. They think we will break because we are small. But they do not understand. Our feelings are our strength. Our love is our power. And our size means nothing when our hearts are infinite. She raised her hand, and her voice grew strong. Let them come. Let them bring their ships and their soldiers and their weapons. Let them throw everything they have at this small blue world. And let them learn what free people do when they have nothing left to lose. She smiled then. A real smile. A fierce smile. We do not surrender. We do not run. We stand. We fight. And we make them remember our names forever. The transmission ended. Silence fell across the world. And then, slowly, something beautiful happened. People began to sing old songs. War songs. Love songs. Songs of hope and songs of defiance. The sound rose from cities and spread across continents. It filled the air and reached toward the stars. In space, the alien fleet began its final approach. They saw the small blue world ahead of them. They saw the tiny human ships waiting to meet them. They expected fear, but through their intercepted signals, they heard something else. They heard singing, and for the first time, they felt afraid. The alien fleet emerged from the darkness like a wave of metal and fire. Thousands of ships, each one larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. They filled the sky with their presence. They blocked out the stars. On the bridge of the command ship, the alien admiral watched the human fleet and laughed. This is what they send against us. He said, 100 ships against thousands? They are more foolish than we thought. His officers laughed with him. The battle would be over in minutes. The humans would be captured. The beacons would be repaired. Everything would return to normal, but then something strange happened. The first wave of alien ships surged forward. They powered up their weapons. They locked onto their targets. And then, without warning, half of them went dark. Engines failed. Lights died. Weapons shut down. Ships that had been flying toward Earth suddenly drifted like dead leaves in the void. The admiral stared at his screen. What is happening? No one could answer. No one understood. On a hidden station far behind the human fleet, Tay sat at a control panel and smiled. He had spent months preparing for this moment. He had studied the beacons his whole life. He had learned their secrets. He had learned how to make them give. He had learned how to make them take. The alien ships used beacon energy to power their systems. They depended on it. They could not survive without it, and now Tay was taking it away. Phase 1 complete, he said into his communicator. The way is clear. Captain Nari received the message and gave the order. All ships attack. The human fleet moved forward. They were small and ugly and outnumbered, but they were fast. They were fierce, and they were not afraid to die. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human. Ships flew directly into the alien formations. They did not try to dodge. They did not try to hide. They attacked with everything they had. Missiles and guns and ramming attacks. They fought like animals. They fought like demons. They fought like people who had nothing left to lose. On the alien command ship, the admiral watched in horror. His fleet was dying. Ships that still had power were being torn apart by the human attack. Ships without power were helpless, drifting targets. They are insane, he whispered. They are completely insane. He tried to give orders. He tried to organize a retreat, but the humans would not let them run. They chased every ship. They hunted every target. They showed no mercy, because they had been shown no mercy. For 200 years, young Soldier Day flew a small fighter through the chaos. His weapons were almost empty. His ship was damaged, but he was still fighting. He saw a human cruiser surrounded by alien ships burning and breaking apart. The crew was still firing. Still fighting? He could hear them on the radio, singing an old song about home and hope and never giving up. Then the cruiser exploded, and the singing stopped. Day screamed. He turned his fighter toward the nearest alien ship and opened fire. He did not stop until his weapons were empty. Then he rammed his ship into the enemy. He survived the impact somehow. He floated in his broken cockpit, watching the stars spin around him. He was going to die here. He knew that, but he was not afraid. "This is for everyone you killed," he whispered. "This is for everyone you ignored. This is for my people." A rescue ship found him an hour later. He was barely alive, but he was alive. On the hidden station, Tay worked faster. His fingers flew across the controls. He was doing something that had never been done before. He was overloading the beacon network. He was sending a pulse through every beacon in the galaxy. When the pulse hit, every beacon would shut down. Every connection would be severed. Every light would go dark except the beacons near Earth. Tay had protected those. He had made them different. They would survive. "Are you sure about this?" Hannah asked. She was beside him, watching the screens with wide eyes. "No," Tay admitted, "but it is the only way. As long as the beacons work, they will keep coming. They will never stop hunting us. We have to end it. We have to make them understand that the old galaxy is gone." He looked at her. His eyes were sad but determined. "We have to burn it down so we can build something better." Hannah nodded. She put her hand on his shoulder. "Do it." Tay pressed the final button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screens lit up with warnings. Red lights flashing everywhere. The pulse was spreading. Racing across the galaxy at impossible speed, on the battlefield, the alien ships felt it first. The ones that still had power suddenly lost it all. Every system failed. Every light died. They became nothing but metal coffins, drifting in the void. The alien admiral stared at his dark screens. He could hear his crew screaming. He could feel the cold creeping in as life support failed. "What have they done?" he whispered. Across the galaxy, the answer came. Beacons died, one after another, like candles blown out by a wind. Trade routes closed. Communication stopped. Empires that had ruled for thousands of years suddenly found themselves alone. The galaxy went dark, all except one small corner. All except one small blue world. Earth. On the battlefield, the human ships stopped firing. There was nothing left to fire at. The alien fleet was dead. Thousands of ships, floating silent and cold. Captain Nari looked at the destruction and felt no joy. Only exhaustion. Only sorrow. "It is done," she said quietly. The message spread across the human fleet. Across Earth, across the tiny handful of human colonies that still survived, it is done. President Sue stood at her window and watched the sun rise over Earth. The battle was over. Humanity had won. But the cost had been terrible. So many lives lost. So many ships destroyed. So much pain. She closed her eyes and remembered everyone who had died. Everyone who had sacrificed. Everyone who had believed that this moment was worth fighting for. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you all." Outside, the sun rose higher. The sky turned from black to blue. Birds began to sing. The stars had fallen silent. The galaxy was dark, but Earth was still here. Earth was still standing. Earth was still alive, and that was enough. For now, that was enough. 5 years had passed since the galaxy went dark. The great empires were gone. The proud species that once ruled thousands of worlds now struggled to survive. Planets that once had everything now had nothing. Ships that once flew across the stars now sat silent and dead. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. They had learned what it meant to lose what they had taken for granted. And Earth. Earth had become something new. In a park in Seoul, children played under the warm sun. Human children with black hair and bright eyes. But not only human children. Alien children too. Blue children and green children, and children with forearms and children with scales. They played together. They laughed together. They did not care about species or empires or old hatreds. President Sue, now retired, sat on a bench and watched them play. She was older now. Her hair was white and her hands shook sometimes. But her eyes were still sharp and her heart was still full. She watched an alien boy help a human girl climb a tree. She watched them sit on a branch together, pointing at the clouds and talking about what shapes they saw. She wept, not from sadness. From something else, something she had almost forgotten how to feel. Hope. Across the city. In a building that used to be a war room, Tay stood before a map of the galaxy. He was older too. His hair had gray in it now, and there were lines on his face that had not been there before. But he was smiling. "The network is stable," he said to the team around him. "We can begin the next phase." For 5 years, humanity had been rebuilding the beacon network. Slowly, carefully, one connection at a time. But this time, they were doing it differently. This time, there were rules. This time, everyone who wanted to use the network had to agree to treat each other as equals. No more masters. No more servants. No more hierarchies. Just people. Helping each other. Building something better. Hannah was there too. She was Earth's ambassador now, representing humanity to what remained of galactic civilization. It was a hard job. Many species still hated humans. They blamed humanity for the collapse. They refused to accept responsibility for their own actions. But slowly, things were changing. Slowly, they were beginning to understand. "We have a request," Hannah said. "From the Jewel of Endless Sky, they want to join the network." Tay nodded. "What do they offer?" "Nothing. They have nothing. Their world is dying. They are starving. Then why should we help them?" Hannah smiled. It was the same question the aliens would have asked 5 years ago. But the answer was different now. "Because they asked," she said. "Because they need help. Because that is who we choose to be." Tay looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Send the ships. Connect their world. Give them what they need." On the Jewel of Endless Sky, Yoon was finally going home. He had spent 5 years on this alien world, stranded and alone. He had watched the collapse. He had seen the suffering. He had helped where he could, sharing what little he had with the aliens, who had once looked down on him. Now a human ship was coming to take him back to Earth. But before he left, the Elder came to see him one last time. The Elder was even older now. His skin was like dust, and his eyes were cloudy. But his voice was still strong. "Thank you," the Elder said, "for staying, for helping, for forgiving." Yun shook his head. "There's nothing to forgive. You were afraid? Fear makes people do terrible things, but fear can be overcome. That is what I have learned." The Elder reached out and touched Jun's hand. It was the first time he had ever touched a human. "Hey, we called you primitive," he said. "We called you weak. We were wrong. You are the strongest species in the galaxy. Not because of your ships or your weapons, because of your hearts. You carry so much pain, and yet you still choose to love. That is a miracle we will never understand." Yun smiled. "Maybe you will, someday." The ship came, and Yoon went home. In a great hall that used to belong to the Galactic Council, Captain Nari stood before a new assembly. It was smaller than the old council, humbler, representatives from 100 worlds. Seated together as equals, this was the new Galactic Union, built on different principles. Built on lessons learned in Fire and Darkness, not Nar commanded the Union's peacekeeping fleet. Human ships and alien ships flying together, protecting each other, serving each other. "We have a disturbance in the outer systems," one of the representatives said. "2 factions fighting over resources." Nari nodded. "I will send a patrol. We will help them find a peaceful solution." No one objected. No one questioned. They trusted her. They trusted humanity. It was still strange sometimes. Still hard to believe, but it was real. At the end of the hall, the elder from the Jewel of Endless Sky rose to speak. He was the last of his generation. The last one who remembered the old galaxy. He had asked for this moment, and no one had the heart to refuse him. "I have something to say," he began. "To the humans. To everyone." The hall fell silent. "We called you primitive because you felt too deeply. We called you weak because you died to isolate. We called you small because you asked for nothing. We were fools." He took a shaking breath. "When the stars went dark, you were the only ones who knew how to carry the light. When the galaxy collapsed, you were the only ones who knew how to rebuild. When we begged for mercy, you gave us something better. You gave us respect." He looked at Nari, at Hannah, at all the humans in the room. "Forgive us. Teach us. Let us learn to be human." The hall was silent. Then, slowly, someone began to clap. Others joined. The sound grew until it filled the room, washing over everyone like a wave. That night, Hannah stood on a balcony overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The stars were bright above her. So many stars. So many lights being rekindled. Jan stood beside her. He had arrived on Earth just that morning. He was older, sadder, but he was home. "I missed this," he said. "The ocean, the sky, the smell of salt and rain." Hannah pointed upward. In the distance, a new light flickered to life. A new beacon. A gift from Earth to a distant, struggling world. "We could have let them fall," she said quietly. Yun watched the light grow brighter. He thought about everything that had happened. All the pain. All the loss. All the anger. And then he thought about the children playing together in the park. The elders speaking words of humility. The galaxy slowly healing, learning to be better. "Yes," he said. "That is why we did not." The stars were waking up again, and this time they would remember who kept the light alive.